So I would like to read a page from last week and then the final few pages, in which Sri Aurobindo attempts to show us something about this stillness. Which is necessary. It's very difficult to establish this necessity, the importance of this necessity, because it's beyond rational understanding. And in the human cycle, Sri Aurobindo suggests that a real transformation of humanity can happen only when this need is felt by many. When he says, when the race is gripped by this need. So this is, as he points out, not likely to happen. The transformation of humanity is unlikely because of the fact that this need is beyond rational understanding. I was reading yesterday something from an Islamic mystic who says constantly throughout this poem, you can only know the king when you have died to yourself. So this is mystical knowledge. But for that to become an evolutionary pattern, and not just the privilege of a mystic, is still something that's almost inconceivable. So when we hear something like this, it conveys a truth and a reality that is beyond our experience. And yet it is initiatory. It's something that we must hear, really hear. There was no soul within, no power of life. The brain's vibrations that appear like thought, the nerves' brief answer to each contact's knock, the heart's quiverings felt as joy and grief and love were twitchings of the body, their seeming self, that body forged from atoms and from gas, a manufactured lie of Maya's make. Its life a dream seen by the sleeping void. The animals, lone or trooping through the glades, fled like a passing vision of beauty and grace, imagined by some all-creating eye. Yet something was there behind the fading scene. Wherever she turned, at whatever she looked, it was perceived, yet hid from mind and sight. The one only real shut itself from space and stood aloof from the idea of time. Its truth escaped from shape and line and hue. All else grew unsubstantial, self-annulled. This only everlasting seemed and true, yet nowhere dwelt. It was outside the hours. This only could justify the labor of sight, but sight could not define for it a form. This only could appease the unsatisfied ear, but hearing listened in vain for a missing sound. This answered not the sense, called not to mind. It met her as the uncaught, inaudible voice that speaks forever from the unknowable. It met her like an omnipresent point, pure of dimensions, unfixed, invisible, the single oneness of its multiplied beat, accentuating its sole eternity. It faced her as some vast naught's immensity, an endless no to all that seems to be, an endless yes to things ever unconceived, and all that is unimagined and unthought, an eternal zero, or untotaled aught, a spaceless and a placeless infinite. Yet eternity and infinity seem but words vainly affixed by mind's incompetence to its stupendous, lone reality. The world is but a spark burst from its light. All moments, flashes from its timelessness. All objects, glimmerings of the bodiless, that disappear from mind when that is seen. It held as if a shield before its face, a consciousness that saw without a seer. The truth where knowledge is not, nor knower nor known. The love enamored of its own delight, in which the lover is not, nor the beloved, bringing their personal passion into the vast. The force omnipotent in quietude. The bliss that none can ever hope to taste. It canceled the convincing cheat of self. A truth in nothingness was its mighty clue. If all existence could renounce to be, and being take refuge in non-being's arms, and non-being could strike out its ciphered round, some luster of that reality might appear. A formless liberation came on her. Once sepulchred alive in brain and flesh, she had risen up from body, mind, and life. She was no more a person in the world. She had escaped into infinity. What once had been herself had disappeared. There was no frame of things, no figure of soul. A refugee from the domain of sense, evading the necessity of thought, delivered from knowledge and from ignorance, and rescued from the true and the untrue. She shared the superconscious high retreat beyond the self-born word, the nude idea, the first bare solid ground of consciousness. Beings were not there. Existence had no place. There was no temptation of the joy to be. Unutterably effaced. No one and null. A vanishing vestige, like a violet trace, a faint record merely of a self now past. She was a point in the unknowable. Only some last annulment now remained. Annihilation's vague, indefinable step. A memory of being still was there and kept her separate from nothingness. She was in that, but still became not that. This shadow of herself, so close to naught, could be again self's point d'appui to live. Return out of the inconceivable and be what some mysterious vast might choose. Even as the unknowable decreed, she might be naught, or new become the all. Or if the omnipotent nihil took a shape, emerge as someone and redeem the world. Even now, her splendid being might flame back out of the silence and the nullity, a gleaming portion of the all-wonderful, a power of some all-affirming absolute, a shining mirror of the eternal truth, to show to the one in all its manifest face. To the souls of men, their deep identity.